Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Heather. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kids, elementary and high school age. Today I'm going to be doing a book update with you, so let's get into it. Okay guys, it has been a while since I have done a book update. I have not posted about the books that I've read since the end of March, and part of that is because I did not read that many books in April. I think I only read a couple of books in April. It's June right now. I've only finished 2 books this month. It's been a little crazy. April, if you've watched any of my videos, we went on vacation for the first half of April. We came home, getting back into the swing of things with homeschool. Finished up homeschool right at the beginning of May, just in time for me to get shingles and be out of commission. You would think that I would have read a lot more in May, and actually the bulk of the books that I'm going to talk about today are books that I did read in May because I was just sitting most of the time. But I'm actually going to go way back to the end of March because I recorded that March video and there were still several days left in the month and I did finish a bunch of books before the end of March. So I'm going to start with Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. And if you watched my March books update, I said that I was really enjoying it. I had only read maybe a third of the book when I recorded that video. As the book went on, I was less and less inclined to like it, not because it was a bad book. It wasn't really cohesive to me. It seemed like it was jumping around a little bit, and maybe if I reread it in physical form, it would be different. I was reading an ebook, but I only gave that book 3 stars, which was kind of sad for me because I really enjoyed his books, Deep Work and Digital Minimalism. I thought those were 2 really, really good books. This one was just not a hit for me. Again, if I read it in physical form, it may be different, but I did read it in ebook form, and so that may have, been part of it. With nonfiction books, I really like to read physical copies because I like to take notes, and it's very challenging for me to do that on my Kindle. I know that it's possible. I know I can underline things and do all of that stuff, but there's just something about highlighting and writing in the margins that works for me. The next book that I read was The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee, and I gave that book 5 stars. It's the first in a series. I don't know if the second book has come out. I don't think I've read it. This is part of the problem with me not doing book updates in the month that I read the books because I definitely forget things. It's Romantasy. Really, really enjoy a lot of her books. So I enjoyed that one. The next book that I read was Pride and Premeditation by Tirzah Price, and I gave that book 4 stars. It is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, and it's all about a murder mystery, and it was really, really good. Emma had actually bought the second book in that series, which is called, what is it called? Sense and Second Degree Murder, I think is what it's called. And so I saw that she had purchased that book at Barnes & Noble, and I said, oh, I wonder if it's a part of a series, and so it is. So I wanted to read the Pride and Premeditation first, so I did. I gave that 4 stars, really, really enjoyed it. The next 2 books that I read were the Transcend series by Jewel E. Ann, and I gave the first book 4 stars, and I did really, really like it. It's kind of like a mind-bending experience. There is this girl, she's very young, and she ends up having memories from this man's friend who passed away when he was in high school, and it's just all of their journey. And I really, really like the setup of the book, but then the second book, it just took a turn and I didn't like it, and it set it up for other books. I think there are maybe 2 more books in the series that I did not read, but it didn't end the way that I wanted it to, and that kind of always puts me off from books. I did like the premise, but it kind of got all convoluted in the second book. So the second book I gave 3 stars, the first book I gave 4 stars. So those were the rest of my March books. Then in April, I did only read 3 books. Honestly, I thought I was going to read so much more because we were on vacation and I brought a bunch of books with me. I had my Kindle loaded up, but I just didn't read at all. When we were sitting by the pool, I was just sitting and enjoying the sun. I really needed that vitamin D. We left in the middle of a nor'easter and it was the beginning of April, and anyways. So the first book that I read in April, or finished in April, was The Year of Living Happy by Ali Worthington, and this was like 100 short devotionals, and I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed what she talked about, and it was little encouraging chapters, and I gave this book 4 stars. The next book that I read was Avalon Tower by C.N. Crawford, and I only gave this book 3 stars, which is really sad for me because I really love her Frost series, Frost and Nectar series, and there's another series that I can't remember at the moment that I also really love by her. And this is the first in a series, and I thought it was going to be better for me. It is, but I just did not enjoy it. And then the third book that I read, and the last book that I read in April, was Love Does by Bob Goff. And this is a book that I had heard about years and years ago and had put on my TBR. And then in April, I just didn't have any books to read. And so I actually listened to this one on audio, and it was okay. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't anything groundbreaking to me. It was on the list of books that I had highlighted in the quick start guide from Cultivate What Matters. There are book lists for all of the different categories that you may set goals in this little quick start guide. If you don't have that, it's so good. I will leave that linked in the description box. It has all kinds of different ideas if you feel stuck with goals. But there were a bunch of books that I had highlighted to read in different areas, in different categories, like, you know, faith or relationships or work or etc. So this was on that list, and I read it, and it was just okay for me. I know a lot of people really love this book, but maybe it would have been different if I had read a physical book instead of listening to it on audio, but it was just okay for me. So those were my April books. Then we get into May, and the first book that I have is the book Tired of Being Tired by Jess Connolly, and I gave that 4 stars. I did really enjoy it. I liked a lot of what she said. Laura Casey actually sent me this book, and it was definitely eye-opening. I do recommend it. Some of the stories were a little off for me. They weren't as applicable to me today as maybe like 5 years ago, but overall I did really like it, and I got a lot of good encouragement from that book. The next 2 books are books by Abby Jimenez, The Friend Zone and Part of Your World. And this was my first experience reading her books, and it was because she has a book that has just come out that I wanted to read, but it wasn't available at the library. I was on a hold list, and so I got these 2 books to try out just to see if I like the author, and I really do. I gave The Friend Zone 4 stars, and Part of Your World I gave 5 stars, and I think that those are both part of series that she's done. I haven't read any more of her books. I do want to read the one that just came out, but our library, unfortunately, there's some contract dispute with the interlibrary loan, and so you can't request books from other libraries. And while our library does have a lot of books, it is definitely limited and does not have full series of books, which is a bummer. And that is going to be, the contract negotiation stuff is going to be going on all summer long. So the kids and I can't request books, and we're just that was a hard hit for us, but I really liked both of those books. The next book that I read is actually a reread for me. I read this, I think, maybe in 2013 or 2014, Weapons of Mass Instruction by John Taylor Gatto, and I gave this book 4 stars, and I think that I had originally given it 4 stars as well. It's all about public schools and kind of the history of public schools and the challenges that they face and things that would be very helpful for public schools to implement, but they're unable to implement because they're managing classrooms and they're not able to dedicate the same amount of time to individual students as they need. It was a good reminder. I was kind of looking for something homeschool related as I was thinking ahead to homeschool planning for this coming year, so I did enjoy that. The next book that I read was Hidden Beneath the Embers by Faye Beck, and I only gave that one 3 stars. It was fantasy. I wasn't all that excited about it. It was just okay. The next book that I read was Fall of Ruin and Wrath by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I gave that book 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Fantasy romance. It's very good. It's the first in the series. So I'm excited to continue with that. The next book that I read was Light Lark by Alex Astor, and I gave that one 5 stars. I've heard a lot of people that didn't really like that book so much. I am reading Nightbane right now, which just came out, and I'm definitely enjoying the series. And I think there's going to be a 3rd book in November that's going to be released. I loved it. It's about these rulers of these different islands, and they all have a specific power, and they come together, and the whole premise is one of the rulers has to kill another ruler to get rid of this curse that happened 500 years ago, and just this whole challenge that they're trying to figure out which ruler should die, because once that ruler dies, that entire island of people also dies. So anyways, I really enjoyed that book, and I am enjoying the series, so definitely recommend. The next book I read was The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren, and I gave that 4 stars. Their books are hit or miss for me. I sometimes like them, I sometimes don't, but I did enjoy this one. And then the last book that I read was Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto, and again, this is another reread, and I gave it 4 stars. And again, it was with the idea of homeschool planning and keeping my priorities straight as we go into a new homeschool year. Because when you see all the new curriculum, if you see all of the stuff that other people are doing, you want to add a bunch of things to your plate, and I just need to keep straight what we want to do and not be influenced by a lot of outside people. And then June, the 2 books that I've read this month. The first book is Habits for a Sacred Home by Jennifer Pepito, and I gave that book 5 stars. It is very reminiscent of Habits of the Household by Justin, oh, what is his last name? I can't remember. I will put a picture up of that book. I really enjoyed that book. And then also the Rule of Life book, author I cannot remember at the moment, but I really like this book. It gave you little tips at the end of each book, little questions that you could fill in to come up with your own rule of life. And at the end of the book, there's kind of like a, not a Mad Libs, but a fill in the blank type thing for your own rule of life with your family. She has another book that I really like. It is called Mothering by the Book. I think this came out a couple of years ago. Definitely recommend this book as well. She also included recipes for each of the chapters, so that was really good. I actually read that on ebook, so I do want to get a physical copy, but I have not. It just came out in May. I hadn't even heard about it at all, and usually I'm really tuned into books that homeschoolers are writing in the homeschool community, but I just happened to see this one on Hoopla and was looking for a book, so I did get that. And the second book that I finished was The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I gave that book 4 stars. It was okay. I am not going to continue with the series. I was hoping for a little bit more, but I did enjoy the book. It's a lot of puzzles and games. This very rich old man dies and leaves all of his wealth and properties to this random teenager, and she doesn't know why. She doesn't know this guy, and it's all about all of these little clues that he left for her and his grandchildren to kind of figure out why she was left the money and not them. So it was a really good book, but I'm not interested in continuing the series. And then, like I said, I'm reading Nightbane right now, the second book in the Light Lark series, and that is really good. So obviously I've not read a lot of books, but at the same time, I feel like I did read some other books in that April-May time period that I just totally forgot, just ebooks that I was reading at night on my Kindle. And that does sometimes happen if I read a book and then I just don't even write it down. And that's possible that that happened in April because things were just so chaotic in April, but I'm not sure. The other book that I'm reading right now is When the Moon Hatched, and I'm about 45% of the way in. It is a long book and I'm really enjoying it, but it is a long book, and I've actually seen several people on Instagram post the physical book recently that they've picked up in paperback, and it's super thick, and so I felt really much better about that after I saw how big the book actually is, because when you're reading on Kindle, you just don't notice it. And that was the same as when I read the third, I think it was Heat of the Everflame. It's the third book in that Penn Cole series, Spark of the Everflame. The fourth book is coming out soon, which I will read, but that third book is like over 1,000 pages, and I was reading it on Kindle and I could not figure out why I wasn't making any progress on it. Once I realized that that book was over 1,000 pages, I was like, oh, okay, that's why. That's why it's taken me so long to get through it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm hoping to get into a better rhythm of updating my books. In fact, I started sharing my books on Instagram in January, like a one-line review and rating, and I quickly stopped sharing. So I've got to try and update those because I would like to have them for myself. For in the future, just so that I can look back on all the books that I read in like a picture form for the year. So I need to get back to that as well, but I'm hoping to start recording these videos a little more frequently to share with you. But those are the books that I've read. I've also been doing a lot of homeschool research. All of the books back here, oh, you can't see them, on the middle shelves are all books that I have been going through for homeschool for next year, and that definitely takes away from my enjoyable reading time. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.